Yo, what is going on everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Big Cat 188, and in today's video I will be showing you guys a one-shot Thor build that will literally go crazy against even the most annoying ads such as the fire adaptoids or even the regular adaptoids or the shield bots. It doesn't matter who it is. If you do this build right, it will literally one-shot everything in sight. Now before I share the build with you guys, I do want to say make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are new. We are coming out with a lot more Avengers build guides and a lot more gameplay videos in the future, especially with the new cloning lab that's coming out. And also, if you guys do end up enjoying this video, be sure to hit the like button. And yeah, let's hop straight into this one, man. So for you guys to understand this build, you have to understand one thing about the game. There are positive and there are negative charge status effects on enemies. Now, all the negative status effects on enemies are electric, gamma, and cryo. And all the positively charged status effects on enemies are plasma, cosmic, and particle. Now in your build, if you at least have one positive and one negative status effect, you can apply both on an enemy, and once the status bar fills up, the oppositely charged status effect will do a significant amount of damage, and we call this the battery effect in this game. The battery effect are those green numbers that you guys see when a status effect of the opposite charge is applied, and then you go ahead and hit them with the opposite charge status effects. So such as if I put the shock effect on them, such as somebody with Thor, if I put the shock status effect on the enemy and then I go and hit them with like a plasma or like a particle damage, you will see those green numbers pop up a lot and more frequently, which means you boosted your damage, and those green numbers can also crit. Now the green numbers are not just for the battery effect, they also apply for when you hit an enemy on their weak point, such as if you hit them with a headshot, you will see the green number pop up as well. And the thing that you guys want to do, especially if you're playing with somebody such as Thor, you can apply the status effect, and then you could also say you had a range build, you could throw the hammer at their head and you could do like double the extra damage. It's absolutely insane because you can apply the battery effect on an enemy, you can hit them in their weak point, which will boost your damage. So two things that'll boost your damage. Then if you crit, both of those damage will be boosted by whatever your critical attack damage is. So if your critical attack damage is 300% or whatever, and say together a weak point and a status effect is hitting an enemy for like, I don't know, 70,000, well, literally multiply that by 3 and you're doing a tremendous amount of damage. Now initially, for the past few days, I have been testing out range builds for Thor because Thor's range build is just as broke as his melee. Actually, it's actually a little bit weaker, but it is very strong. It's better than most people in the game. Now his range build, you can do everything that I just said, but the only problem is it doesn't do nearly as much damage unless you throw the hammer. Then it will do a lot of damage. But the thing is, when you throw the hammer, you're only going to be able to hit at least an enemy at a time. So especially when you're hitting adaptoids, your hammer is just going to bounce right off of them, which I really hate that, but it's going to bounce right off them and you're only going to be able to hit them. So now if we go on to the build that I will be showing you guys today, which is the melee build, this is where things start to get a little bit broken because Thor is practically melee based. Even though his range is very strong, his melee build is way stronger than his range build. And the thing about Thor is when you call in his Odin Force and you imbue your attacks with the Odin Force energy, you do even more damage because they're imbued with the Odin Force. So you pretty much have 4 things boosting your attack power, and you're going to be hitting every single ad like crazy, bro, like no other. Now I'm sure as you guys been seeing on the screen, I'm hitting people for like 134,000 and is literally one-shotting them. I'm hitting regular ads for like 134,000. I'm hitting the bosses and the adaptoids for 130,000+. And it honestly all depends. Now what I recommend, Thor automatically comes with shock damage, which already boosts your damage. Now I recommend your opposite effect be particle damage, because when you apply the particle effect, if you happen to get that status effect on them, it'll boost your damage even more because that reduces their size and also increases the amount of damage you will do to them as well. Alright, so moving on to the gear, I want to show you guys what the gear is looking like. Now a lot of these items, maybe about one of these items, 2 of these items could be changed, but I'm just going to cover that a little bit later. So for the first item, I have the van braces of the Thunderer, And now this is probably the most important item that I would love to change, and I'm going to show you guys what I would change this item with. Now this right here, this is not bad at all because the power attacks spray the Pem particles, and we like that. I don't really care about the light attack finishers, but you know, just in case you do it, it still applies the Pem particles. And I also do get might and proficiency with this, and if you guys want to know where you're supposed to get this, I'll leave a link down in the description below where you get the set gear for each character. But for the Van Braces of the Thunderer, this drops out of elite vaults. Now if I was to change this item, I'm going to show you guys what I would change it with. Now personally, if it was up to me, I would get the heavyweight spark Van Braces. Now I'm pretty sure these only drop out of maybe chests, like loot boxes, and maybe the heroic hives. I would definitely get the heavyweight spark Van Braces if you guys happen to stumble upon them, because as you guys can see, the third perk increases your critical attack damage like crazy. And the reason why I don't have this on is because it does not give me Pem particles. Now this version of this item to me shows that it could potentially be Pem particles because it says heavy power attacks trigger a burst of cryo damage. Now usually those perks are always interchangeable with other effects, and I'm pretty sure particle damage will be one of those effects. So if you guys could get this item right here with Pem particles, you will do at least 200,000, if not more. You probably will do 200,000 plus on an enemy, especially when you call in all of your damage buffs and then you call in your support heroic ability that increases your damage and your crit damage and your critical attack chance. You will easily hit somebody for almost 300k. Now for my weapon, honestly, I'm really kind of just going for something that gives me a lot of might, valor, and even proficiency if I have it. What I did like that I had with this was the heavyweight breaker effect that increases my damage from power attacks. That is the third perk right there, and that's probably the main thing I wanted on this, is the increased damage. Now if you get something that gives you increased crit chance for power attacks too, that's pretty nice as well. For my chest piece, I have taking damage gives me a damage buff, which is so important because all the damage that you take in this game, you most definitely need something that gives you a damage buff, because what the damage buff will do, if you guys do not know, the damage buff doesn't make you hit harder per se. What it does is it gives you extra crit chance, so you can crit more often. So if your crit chance and your crit damage is very high, you are going to be hitting people like crazy, especially with a build like this. Now for my belt, I have on this, but I kind of want something else. I want different perks. I love the rampage buff, that's what I use it for, the damage buff. Also intensity, proficiency, and might are very helpful when I'm trying to apply my status effects on the enemy. It just helps me apply it way faster, and I do like that a lot. Hopefully I can come back to these builds later in the future and show you guys what all of these builds look like with like the most perfect perk setup ever. Now for my minor artifacts, originally I had 2 might artifacts, but I was literally getting destroyed because I had no health. I only had like 9,000 health, but I was hitting even harder than that before. I'll show you guys what I was hitting for before I did that up on the screen. But I had to survive, guys. Like survivability is very important because, you know, I can do all the damage in the world, but if I'm getting 1 shot and 2 shot, I'm not even gonna be able to put out that kind of damage. So I made sure I put on 1 orange ISO, which boosted my health all the way up to like 13,000, almost 1,400. I mean 1,400, almost 14,000, which came in handy. And I also have this 1 red ISO that just boosts my might even more by like another 93%. And for my major artifacts, obviously I'm rocking the Tactagon because, like I said, we were trying to put the status effect on people faster, and we can do way more damage when they have the battery effect on them. Now moving over to the skills, because the skills really are kind of important. For the support heroic abilities, these are obvious: Ymir's Wrath. Then you want Hell's Anger. Like I said, these are just going to boost your damage even further. For your assault, you want to make sure you have the Thunderstorm to hold up to 3 charges, because this is going to apply the shocked effect on all the enemies that are within the area. It instantly applies the shocked effect, so then you can just go in with the Pem particle heavy attack and just burst them down like crazy. For the second part of that, we have overexposure, which literally just increases the amount of damage it does to shocked enemies and normal enemies. I really don't care about the overcharge, and I do not care about the rolling thunder at all. For my ultimate, we have the burn effect, because this is actually plasma burn. So, and just in case you do not have your assault or anything and you do have your ultimate, this will apply the plasma burn effect. So then when you hit people with electric based based attacks, the green numbers and the battery effect will still apply, just an opposite. You'll probably do a little bit less damage because, like I said before, the status effect of shock damage makes you hit enemies harder, and like in general. Plasma burn just staggers enemies and stops them from attacking, so it doesn't really give you a damage boost, but it will apply that battery effect, so when we do go and hit them with shock damage attacks, then we'll do a lot of damage as well. Just not as much as if you applied the shock damage and hit them with like the plasma burn or something like that. For the second part, we have the Asgard's Light just to regain our health, just in case we're like in a clinch. We have, for the melee, we have heroic charge. For melee, we have combo damage. You know, you already know why, don't even play with me. Anyway, for the third part, we have the heroic takedown just to spawn that heroic orb just in case we need it. So we're rocking with guard breaker just in case somebody has a shield. And we have speed burst, that doesn't really matter too much. For the intrinsic ability, we have iconic bolts just to zap some more people nearby when we finish attacking them. Intrinsic ability, we also have the maximum force to increase our maximum Odin charge energy or Odin force energy. For the third part, we are rocking with Asgardian's fortitude because this is probably the most annoying thing on Thor. When you do get hit, they drain your Odin force bar, so it does stack very well with the gear item, with the chest piece, the breastplate of the Allfather, I believe, if I have it here somewhere. Yeah, right here. If you stack that skill with this chest piece, no longer when you get hit, your Odin force meter will be drained. And for our intrinsic overcharge, for when we go overcharge, because you will go overcharge a lot when you hit people with your assault ability, mainly because the assault ability, you have this little passive effect for a burning light. Hitting 5 enemies, you will automatically overcharge your Odin force meter. So that's how you're gonna go and overcharge a lot more frequently. And what I like to have is I like to have lightning field. Even though I'm doing a lot of heavy attacks, I don't really care about the small electrical hazards. I rather have this because people will intermittently and just automatically get hit just from being near me. And then we know we want a little bit of defense, so we're gonna have the charge resistance. And then for the final part, we're increasing our damage. No questions about it. We're gonna increase our damage with damage force. And yeah, guys, that's pretty much the build. If you guys do this build, like I said, the bracers are probably the most important things with this build because it's going to allow you to hit harder. Other than that, this build is absolutely insane. It does exactly what the game wants you to do and apply these status effects to do maximum damage. So if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Like I said in the beginning, we have more and more build guides coming out. I took like literally the past 2 days. We're gonna drop a video yesterday, but I took the past 2 days to make sure I dropped the perfect Thor build for you guys. I was gonna do a range build, but I might do that in a later video. Maybe next week I'll show you guys my range build. But yeah, other than that, guys, I'm Big Cat 188 and I'm out. Peace.